I tried to put these on the floor.
I probably laughed.
Not so much. I was like, what's wrong with my belt? Because I put my belt on right to a month. And I was like,
We have some A, B in there.
Elise.
Warm it up for you.
They came into my room so that I could be way so much better. Bring them back.
Just cared about you.
And Mike pulled them up with me.
I just want
Oh my god.
So I had them like in a pile. Piles. What's happening? Fours.
Why don't we just sit down and everybody? I said, all made into.
So you raise the dark whenever it's like me
That's a year.
like you did the whole thing with banana bread. So she did that and then she out of the freezer to let the
Maybe on the sides, on the sides I call that.
Did you banana? And he was like, that's what it is.
It's not like you can go.
Oh, I want to say, let's say hi, everybody.
Oh.
There you go. When did she charge her? Did she call her or did she call her?
Yeah.
You tried it?
You like to call people
Size, you dummy. It's like the same size.
smaller before you start coming.
Here, we'll pass it out.
Well, since you're serving everybody,
You get nothing.
I'll,
Can I
keep
butter
it
your
coming.
bread? What's that, tiny piece? Give him the butter. It's fitting. Do you want that little baby piece?
No, my boyfriend's just ate stuff.
Nobody likes that.
I don't mind that. Do you like the end? Little. I don't think so.
Is this one here?
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, that's right. She's not coming.
That's not bad.
That's thick.
I guess it was really. You want the little butt?
No. I like the thick piece.
Oh my
Why do we only have one butter piece?
So I brought you guys muffins because everyone's been so patient with me.
You can
I asked like 1,000 questions today.
The key to my heart.
You want this little piece?
That on it, unless you want it.
Sure.
Muffins.
Do you want the butt or?
To the what?
Or do you want?
Doesn't matter.
Do you want a big piece? Do you like butter or no butter?
Oh, banana nut.
Anybody want banana bread? Banana bread. Banana bread. I can't. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
You're welcome.
What? She asked who left that.
You said you were going to eat that one.
Oh, is that an extra?
That's yeah.
Just wait till it melts in and then.
Make me beautiful.
I was probably gonna eat it anyway. I'm gonna love the thing right
Is everyone here today or
Huh?
is everyone coming here today?
He was there yesterday.
I'm so disappointed.
Not good? Coffee?
So weird.
I need his time clock.
Poisonous.
Huh?
I need his time clock version.
Oh, okay.
Chris said that.
I'll get one later. I don't want it. I've already got bread. Me too.
The whole way. It was fast.
Well, then
Pardon?
you have to.
It's working children
You
that
can take
way.
one and then give it to me.
Or you can take one when it comes around to you.
I don't know how
Dr. Lee.
Oh,
Mama,
James.
I had a banana.
James.
I busted.
Oh my gosh.
Take one.
If it comes around, I'll cut it.
Put the plate in.
That was you.
Look, one left.
No, it's okay.
I can see she's on it. She wants it over there.
Abby's.
It's like nothing left. Oh, Danny, here's one.
There's one. There's one there.
No, she's cleaning with me.
No.
No. Cookie.
Dr. Lee, your child is an excellent baker,
My child?
or whomever made this.
Yes,
But
it
there
was
you
me. I'll tell Gavin.
Pre-made
He
cookie.
did a good job. He probably would make cookies.
Huh? How's your mitten? Did you bring her, Chris?
Yeah, she's a kid.
How's it like?
I think so. She still has one touch. I just hope it's good enough to remove the stitches. Oh,
You're done?
yeah. Everyone.
Yeah.
Have paper,
From Betty.
grab and go that way, grab and go that way.
Good morning, class. Good morning, Miss Brandon. So today we get to do introductions. So when it's your turn, please state. Why are you raising your hand? Oh, okay. Well, hold on.
It's still gonna be called.
Please state your name, your main position, how long you've been here, and something that is unique about this hospital versus another veterinary hospital. It's Mark.
My name is Mar. I have been here for about a year. I am an outpatient nurse. Something that is unique about this hospital is that we have the pets, the cows, Caesar. We used to have a chinchilla. Chinchillas.
We're watching. You definitely need to. Now you're gonna make her a closet here of the whole container.
Hi, Sasha. My name is Kendra. I've been here for a year. I'm a breeder, and a cool thing about the hospital is that we have a pet of the month every month. So, it's pretty cool. Did I miss anything?
Hi, Sasha. My name is Lydia, and I'm here almost 8 years. I'm kennel attendant, and what I like is that everyone goes out of their way to help the customers.
I'm Danny. I've been here for a year and a month. I'm mainly outpatient nurse, sometimes breeder. And I think what's unique is that it's really kind of a teaching hospital. So not everyone is willing to teach you. No one's kind of like, meh. I don't know how to explain it, but doctors are very helpful, managers, other nurses and stuff like that. Brandy, especially. My little redhead angel over here teaches me everything. So very nice.
Mostly breeders, sometimes I do kennel. I've been here for about a year.
Randy. I've been here 7 years. I'm a nurse. And one of the things I think is unique is our doctors. They're super helpful and they are willing to teach you, and they're patient and they're nice and not mean. Which I heard other doctors at the hospital are. I don't know. That's basing off what I heard. They're great doctors.
Brooke, I'm a patient nurse. I've been here over 5 years. What I like is how everybody works together. The competition, everybody's willing to step in and Randy took it.
No, I can't. You guys all have to share.
I found your I've been here for 4 months, and what I like is that we've got 8 doctors here, and so when we have complicated cases, we can pull on each other to help us.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I've been here for, I think 20 years. I'm one of the managers, and I also do dogs. And what I think is unique about this hospital is I feel that we actually care about the clients and the patients, and we try, when people call on the phone to come bring their pets in, we always try to find a way to be able to help them so they can come in. And I think a lot of other places just say, nope, can't come in.
I am Nikki. Most everybody calls me Molar. I have been here for 14 years and a few months. I'm mainly phones, and something that I think is unique about this hospital is that we have weekly staff meetings where we get training and learn new things and discuss issues and how to handle difficult situations and that kind of stuff. I don't know that really any other hospitals do that.
My name's Debbie. I've been here about 18 years. I like our hours, how we're open pretty late during the week till 7, and then being open all day Saturday, Sunday, makes it convenient for clients.
My name's Katie. I've been here about 2.5 years. I'm greeter and outpatient. What's unique is the clients really become family, and they become very close and tell you some things that you don't want to hear. But it's nice that they feel comfortable enough where they can let you know anything.
My name is Vince. I've been here for about 3 years now. I'm a nurse here, and the thing that I think is unique about our hospital is we're able to go to their homes and do either euthanasia there if it's more comfortable, or even just an exam, or maybe give an injection, and they really appreciate it by the clients.
I'm Ronnie. I'm a kennel attendant. I've been here for 3 months, and the unique thing about this hospital is that everyone here is really efficient when it comes down to clinics and getting people in and out of the hospital.
I'm Chris. I'm an outpatient nurse. I've been here for 1 year and 3 months. One thing I really that's unique about our hospital is we have meetings every Wednesday, and sometimes you don't feel like waking up, but ultimately it does lead to everyone working better together because we're a team. We're all here. So.
Hi, Sasha. I really like your name. It's a really cool name. I'm Belinda. I'm one of the vets here. I've been here for 13.5 years. As the years have gone by, what I've learned that has made me grow even better as a vet is actually paying it forward and teaching a lot of the new colleague associates, all the different medicine surgeries that we do to help the pets. And it's nice to see once they get it, they enjoy it. So do it. What does it say? Know it, do it, know it, teach it, something like that. And one of the things I did recently that was also kind of nice and rewarding for me personally was I got to do a stem cell treatment. So we do that as well too.
I'm Dr. Horner. I've been here since '93, so that would be 22 years. Been a vet for 30, or coming up on 30. It's a long time. Board specialist, one of the things that is unique is I live in Tennessee and I practice in California. But the true thing that makes the hospital unique is that we push the envelope. We've never been happy with just average. It's like a crime. So we keep chasing the ability to do things better than most. Makes it fun.
Okay, welcome.
We should clap or something.
Okay, what? You wanna, go next?
Just a couple of things. For the TORB, what is the TORB injection that we're sending home as suspension? I know there's a question on how to charge for it. Just do like any compounding. You do the compounding fee and then do the write-in, the TORB injection price. So.
I don't know, sometimes in the past we would just do the TORB price, but do the TORB price and the compounding.
So basically anything you're compounding into liquid with Kerasyrup or whatever, you just do the compounding fee attached to that item.
Does it make a difference the amount of TORB that you're sending home?
Well, please come to us if you're sending anything over 2
More than
cc's
2,
home.
yeah. I haven't seen that. I think
It's usually like 1 cc.
I have recently. It's a 3
there was one where we
cc.
were gonna do 3 cc's one
Yes.
time, but I don't think we did. If it happens, just ask for that one.
Yeah.
Usually they're about 1. And then on the cremation log, when the clients pick up the ashes, make sure that you log that they were taken. We had a couple where we couldn't find the ashes and they weren't logged or anything, but the owners had already picked them up, so just make sure we log that. I know there's a lot of tracking and a lot of steps to that, but that's really important. And then also, if a client brings in a pet that's passed away, for whatever reason, make sure you put in just a blank history sheet and put patient came in deceased or DOA or whatever, just so there's some history in case we have to go back and reference it. There was a couple charts that had just a claim info sheet, so it doesn't really help with the paperwork side of what happened. And the last thing was any medication being dispensed for clients or employee pets can be no more than 90 days at a time for controlled and non-controlled. So just try to keep that in mind when you're refilling prescriptions that they can't go past 90 days.
So thyroxine, carprofen, amoxicillin,
Mostly things like
Atarax,
and
Red,
or Tramadol.
Yeah.
Tremolo would be even, I hope we're not giving anybody 90 days
I don't think it was 3 months worth though.
No, it was like 2. It was just
Big boy.
They would do a small amount, but we sent them 6 weeks, like 2 months.
Of course, that doesn't apply to, like NexGuard and HeartGuard and Frontline and stuff like that.
Good point.
That's true, I didn't even think about that. Yes, stocking stuff. Why is it different?
Those are like they're more like
No contraindications, prevention,
yeah.
level medicine.
We have to look at Crowan. Yeah.
Oh
the
yeah,
big
because that's
bottles.
sold by the bottle. And Denamarin for some of them.
Denamarin's not RX, is it?
Oh,
I don't
that's
think
Rowan is. Rowan's RX. It's a bleed over on the human side where they've made that firm line on the 90-day thing. Because we used to have 6 months for non-controlled and 90 days for controlled, with the exception of HeartGuard or things that were kind of more prevention, no contraindication. But so I think the easy way to think about it is thinking, am I medicating a condition or not? If you are, then it probably applies. I don't know how likely it is they'll come, especially in a product like Proan or HeartGuard or one of those. I don't know that they're very likely to have a big issue. You start slipping over to Tramadol, things like that, yeah, you could have a big issue.
Yeah, especially because we have to turn that in, the Tramadol.
Well, and the people at the state level used to be reasonable and kind, kind of aware sort of people. And the people at the consumer affairs level these days are not. They're very negative toward veterinarians. So it's in our best interest to be very meticulous so that there's no place for them to go. And you used to didn't have that concern, but that's changed.
take it away.
Kendra gonna go first? Or?
Oh, no.
We decided we're gonna give Kinder a reprieve until next week.
Did you know that, or did they?
They just told me this morning.
Oh, okay. She was busy sweating bullets while ago.
I said you can still go if you want to.
No, it's okay.
Right?
How many of you have not had the class? Because I know that I've given this most years, and probably most of you have had it. So it's not hugely different than last year's class, a little bit of tweaks. No worries, there's a couple of them. I can see 3 for sure. And I only ask because what you probably don't remember is I like questions. I'm really good at answering questions in general. I don't know why I feel like I can't speak loud enough. Can you guys hear me? All right. But the idea is we're going to try to give you some information. The handout doesn't parallel the slides. The information's similar. There's a little more explanations in the handout. But the handout should be fairly easy to follow. And the reason I do that is because a lot of times you talk about stuff and then you get home and you go, I wonder. So if you just, sometime later today or tomorrow, read through the handout, it might help fill in the gaps in some places. Or give you some references where you've actually got the kind of reference. Start with the details. Look at your paychecks. Coming up January, we have to send out W-2s, so make sure that your address is correct. Because every year we end up with somebody's W-2 that gets sent to Taiwan or wherever. And I don't live there anymore. I live over here, and it's a fiasco. So just make sure you look at all of your little things that are filled out correctly on your paychecks. So this is the secret. It's really easy. Spend less than you make. You're done. End of story. Isn't that clear? Most of us, when we're younger, we live at home. We haven't got any expenses, so we make a lot more than we need. And then we go out on our own, and we get our first apartment or our first house or whatever, and we need stuff, or we go to school, and we're paying for school. But we spend more than we make. So maybe you've got student loans to help cover that. Maybe mom and dad are help cover that. There's other ways that this can get paid. But usually in most people's story, there's a period of time that they make less than they spend. And then they get out of school, they get a job, they start actually being able to move forward. And then your goal the rest of the time is make the gap between what you make and what you spend as big as possible. And typically that means living frugally, making good choices. And that's really circles around want versus need. Because I need transportation, I want a really cool car. And I can have it for a mere $1,000 a month in payments. So don't know about you, but I'm not willing to spend $1,000 a month on a car, so I'm borrowing an old Ford that probably I'll spend that in gas if I had to drive it all night. But so again, and this goes for, I had one employee one time give me the rationale why she needed Starbucks coffee as opposed to regular coffee. And again, there's nothing wrong with it once in a while, but just be aware that you are spending more than you have to for an item. So it's a want, not a need. That makes sense. The other kind of pillar, if you will, or another pillar is that I can assure you you'll have a financial crisis. I can't tell you how bad, how frequent, but I know that you'll have one. Everybody does. And are you ready? Do you have money set aside? Are you ready for that problem? Again, the story on that one is one of my managers at the time, a long time ago, or not that long ago, you actually know, was not real great with money, listened to what we did, started saving money, got up to $800 in her savings account, and she was really happy. And guess what happened? Her car broke. Guess what it cost to fix the car? Just under $800. She was stomping mad. And she's just, I saved this money and it's gone. And I said, but what would you have done before? And that's when the light bulb went off. You'd been out begging from friends. You would have had to come and hit me up for trying to get a pay advance. You would have been in this crisis mode where you could pay it and move on and do it again. So, again, the idea of being prepared is so that when stuff happens, you can weather the storm. Because you'll have a storm, guaranteed. And maybe you'll be lucky. Maybe you will never have one. You'll be that one person. But I haven't met them. Everybody I know has them. It's just is it a little crisis or is it a monster crisis? The starting point for most people is 3 to 6 months of income, and that's net income, how much you take off. Because if you couldn't work for 3 to 6 months and you could still pay all your bills, you're reasonably safe. Because most injury illnesses take less than that to get back on your feet. I don't know why, but the number 1,000 seems to be hard for people. You know, if they get 600, they get 800, they get 900, and then something happens and it goes back down. But all of a sudden, it seems like once you hit that $1,000 number, it's not. It seems like I blink and they come tell me, "Hey, what? I got 10,000," and I don't know why it works that way, but it does. So, my best guess is the habits it takes to save. Once you have those habits, it perpetuates. And it gets kind of exciting when you get your bank statement or your investment statement and there's more money. And you feel more secure and you feel more comfortable and you continue the path. It's just a slide I saw that showed how somebody's trying to budget or take all the pieces of money and put it in the different places. The best one I like on this actually was a recent ad. I don't know if anybody's heard the TV commercials run by feedthepig.com. Have you heard of feedthepig.com? It's a new site. It was put together by the independent CPAs. And when I first heard that, I thought, I don't get it. And then when I was reading about the site, they're taking the analogy of a piggy bank and talking about feed the pig, feed the piggy bank. But they have this commercial running around, and it's two young ladies, and one's talking about, I'm putting money in my 401k, and I'm budgeting, and she's talking about all the things that most of the responsible adults do. And her friend's going, "You're killing me. I thought we were going to win the lottery and go play on the beach," and she's going about, it's just funny to hear the contrast. They'll go, "Can't we go to the mall?" No, I don't want to go to the mall. I'm going to spend money I don't want to spend. And so they're just having this back and forth. It's really a cute commercial, but it's kind of predicated on this spender versus saver personality. I got it in my pocket. I got to go blow it. Versus, no, I'm going to set it aside just in case. I'm going to get what I need. I don't know if anybody in the room has credit card debt and has to pay those payments every month and tries to chase the chase, but if you do, it's kind of like swimming with weights on. You can do it for a while. A, it's a lot harder, but B, eventually you probably won't swim very well. It's just it can get a little overwhelming. So there are reasons to borrow money, education being one. I'm going to borrow money to get through college or get through school, so that I can get a new degree that will give me a better income. Transportation, you got to get to work. And again, that doesn't mean the fanciest car or the highest or most expensive, it means transportation. A personal home, that's a tricky one because a personal residence is not an investment. Really important to understand. And I know that the traditional dogma was that buy your house, it's a great investment. No, what it does is it really fixes your rent cost. So if I buy a house today and my payments are $3,000, but I could probably rent for way less than that, it costs me more to get into the house. But 10 years from now, it might be $3,000 to rent somewhere down the street. And so at that point, it's where the house gets more affordable. But so when you buy a personal home, the main thing you're trying to do is just fix your payments, so that for the next 30 years, this is how much it cost me a month to have this house. That's my rent value. And the reason is because if you sell it, where do you live? So that's why it's not. Now again, there's a little tongue-in-cheek, and there is a way to accumulate some money, but you can't use it. But better yet is when you pay the house off, guess what your rent is? Zero. Buying a business. So if you buy a business, hopefully it makes money, and hopefully it pays the debt and makes money. But that's one reason. And investment property is the same concept. You go out and you buy a rental property, put some money down, you get a loan for the balance, the payments for the rent, hopefully they'll offset that, and it works. But all those are reasons that you would want to borrow money. These are things that don't necessarily, they're not your ideal choices for borrowing money. In my opinion, credit card is an emergency card. An exception could be if you have very good diligence and you are disciplined, and you buy stuff on your credit card, you pay the bill off every month, and you use it to get points, mileage, some other tool. Sure, that makes sense. Store credit cards are particularly known for being difficult. They charge a lot more interest. There's usually a little more loopholes, and I believe they negatively affect your credit score, if I'm not mistaken. Payday loans, I hope nobody in this building ever needs one. Where you go to the little guy down the street that charges you an outrageous rate. high interest loans. Care Credit is an example. We use Care Credit for people that struggle financially and can't get a loan. If they can pay it off during that 0 interest period, it's great for them. But if they go into the interest period, I mean, at least from what I can tell, they definitely charge them the maximum legally allowed. So it's not an ideal scenario. Who all knows their FICO score? Good, I like that. Who hasn't ever heard of FICO? Okay. It's a score that is assigned based on a set of parameters, and most people fall in the 6s and 700s, but the range is low. I've never met anybody with a 3. I've met some 500s. And I haven't met many 850s. I've met some low 800s. But for most people in the room, this is a pretty straightforward process, and we'll go through the parts of it. There's 3 groups that manage it. In fact, I'll just jump to it. Why does this score matter? It's because where your score is affects what you pay in interest. If you have a really great score, your interest rates are going to be low. If your score is not so great, 2 things happen. One is you may not be able to borrow the money. 2, if you do, you're going to pay a lot more for it. And if you pay more interest, how much time does it take to pay off something? It's longer, and it's more expensive. Right? The old school rule is if I buy a $100 item with cash, what does it cost me? $100. But if I buy it on a credit card with normal prevailing rates of 15, what does it cost me if I make the minimum payments and pay it off? Or pay it off, let's say 6 months, a year. Does anybody know? It's pretty easy to double
Isn't
it.
it usually from like 19 to 24%?
Can be.
a month, right?
Well, the 19 to 24 tells somebody usually that your credit's not ideal, because you can get that interest lower, and we'll go through that when we get to the next, in a slide or 2. Yeah, don't let them do that to you, because there's better choices as far as the rates. But yes, it does. That's how high the rates can be. It ends up costing you almost double. So if you buy a $100 item, you put it on a credit card, you pay it off over time. You're paying $120 to $200 for that item, depending on how long it takes you to pay it off. Important to understand, because sometimes you're going, I really want it. Keyword want. But do I need it? Because if you can put and save the money and go in and pay cash for it, it's a better decision. But these are factors that affect your credit score. Do you pay on time? And on time is on time, not 2 days late, 3 days late. So you like to slide it in there. This is one thing, if you can pay on time, it's good. The capacity used. So if you have a credit card and it's got $2,000 with a limit, you don't want to ever use more than $1,000, the 50% point. As long as you stay 50% or below, you're considered not at the max, and so that's a preferential effect on your rate. Some of you are young, so you probably don't have a lot of history, but the length of time you've had credit affects your scores. The types that you use, again, back to those, do you have store cards? Do you have furniture cards? How many different types of finances do you have? The more variety, the lower your score will tend to go. Past credit applications, that's how frequently do you apply. So I applied for money for a couch over here at one store. I've tried to get a car over here at another place, and I tried for a payday loan over here. So all 3 of those hit your credit at the same time, and they're going to really negatively bring you down. And the reason is because they're going, if they're spending money here, here, and here, they're going to run out of money. So that's why it negatively affects you.
Is it true that if you were to have a 0 balance on all your credit cards, that it actually negatively affects your score?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
What they told me at the credit union was that it doesn't negatively affect it, but it doesn't help it either.
Because I thought carrying a little bit, like 10% or something around there of your total potential debt was actually beneficial.
What actually negatively affects it is when you close the account.
Yeah.
I have all these cards that have nothing, but it keeps my score the same. But the second I close one, it actually lowered it. So that's the only negatives.
I think we go, that might even be on here. Yeah, never close old accounts. So you do have to call them and tell them that I don't want to pay a rate, because they'll want to charge you $50 a year or whatever for a card. Everybody has a free card. Just tell them, I don't use this card much, if you want me to keep it, I need you to knock off the rate. And almost everybody says, well, we're gonna call it a blah, blah, blah card, and now you're free. To me, the people that spread those stories about having to use credit in general are people that are in the credit business. Because if I get enough people using credit, somebody's not gonna make payments, and I make money on the spread. I make money getting to charge you interest. So if you've looked at a credit report, and if you spend money on a card and you pay it off when the bill comes, it actually still shows up in your credit report as, let's say you put $500 on, you paid it off that month. It'll show as a $500 on that month if you look at the bill or your credit. So it shows that you're using the card even though there's no balance. So the misnomer is you do not have to carry a balance to affect your credit score positively. In my opinion, it's not going to help anybody. But to use a card once in a while and pay it off immediately when you get the bill does probably have an impact on your score. It just shows that you're responsible, that you use credit. And I think that's why it would possibly bring you up. Better yet is if you have a loan, car, house, one of those, and you pay it off. That stays on for 10 years. Shows this large amount that you had, you paid it off, that very positively affects your score. The late payments, I think, are the most common I run into, where somebody says, well, I was just 30 days late, or I was just 60 days late. 60 days late is considered delinquent in most of these. But even a 30-day late will jack your score, pull you down. This is the only site that's government sanctioned to be free. There are a couple I've heard of, but this is the one I know works. If you go directly into Experian, TRW, or these other guys, they usually have some way to try to charge you money. And here you can go, and what I tell a lot of people is pick 3 times a year, go in and just pull each one, because you can do it for free. And then that way 3 times a year you get to look at your credit. And the reason is because 80% of us have errors. Somebody in Santa Ana made a social security card look like mine, has my number, not my name, and all this stuff shows up on my credit. So you have to...
Can you do them all at the same time?
You can do them all at the same time, but you're only allowed to do them once a year.
Once a year.
Why I suggest spreading them out is it will give you a chance to spot something that may have happened on your credit 3 times a year for free. The other time you can do this, if you do get a loan and they either decline you or there's a glitch, you're entitled to a free copy of your credit report at that time. The average credit card debt is up again. I don't know if I corrected that on your handout, but it had gone down. We reached a high point in 2009, kind of right at the first part of the Great Recession. People actually tightened up and started paying their bills a little bit. Things got better. This dropped to about 15,000 last year. Now it's starting to creep back up. So it's not a crazy thing, but delinquency rates as well are up a little bit, and that's where people start not being able to pay. Used to, prior to 2009, when I would say if you put a credit card, or you take a credit card, you put money on it, and you make the minimum payment, when do you pay it off? Prior to 2009, the answer was never. Now there's rules on how long they can make you pay based on minimum payments only. And I know it's tiered, so if it's a certain amount of money, it's a 5-year payout. If it's a certain amount of money, it's a 10. If it's a certain amount of money, it's 30. I believe they can go out to 30 years. And you don't want to pay 30 years at interest rates on credit cards. I think we've already talked about it. Use it on emergencies, pay it off monthly, put a lock on it, freeze it. I've heard people put them in blocks and water and just freeze them in the freezer. By the way, it takes more than a simple, I really want to use it to get it. This was super exciting last year, or a year and a half ago. I guess almost 2 years ago, it was 13. Because for the first time in a long time, people actually were not defaulting on credit cards. They were actually starting to pay them down and pay them off. Unfortunately, this rate's starting to go back up, starting to creep back up. All right, any questions on what we've covered so far before I switch gears? Gifting is an interesting phenomenon. And if you look at parts of societies or different cultures, some cultures it's a very big value thing, and other cultures it's not. But one of the things that's been shown over and over again is it's a bigger issue in the people that struggle financially to gift than for those that are financially successful. And the only theory that, and I guess I don't know that I read the theory, or maybe if I did, I don't remember, but was that maybe because money's tight, it's like I'm giving you something really huge because I'm giving you something, because I really barely can afford to do this or shouldn't be doing this. But there is definitely a pattern, and right down to the gift guilt, you know, we have to get everybody something, and I can't go without getting everybody something. So I bring it up for discussion because I've lived it in my own family. We had a discussion. One of the hardest things we did early on with me joining my wife's family was to get them to stop gifting for adults, because nobody could really afford to do all this. In fact, I think one of my employees is the one that told me the system. The system is you take your credit card, you go shopping, you buy all the stuff you need to for Christmas. And I said, oh, so will you pay it off like in March? No, I want to pay it off by next year so I can do it again. Like, oh my goodness, so you're buying in December and you're spending the rest of the year paying it off so you can do it again next year. Wow. So I bring it up because it is a trap. Now, if I finish the story on the family, I got to compromise. So we don't buy gifts for adults, we just buy gifts for kids. Adults bring wine. So that's the compromise we all settle on. Because they weren't happy coming without anything. There's probably some ladies in here that know what this self-gifting thing is. I don't know, but I'm told that, you know, shopping at lunchtime at the right store can be really risky. I think for guys it's more the gadget, you know. Let me get that new cell phone or the new part for the car. And there's probably guys that go to the mall as well, I don't know. Insurance, there's a lot of different kinds of insurances. I'm going to try to hit the highlights. Health insurance is a need, not a want. Because of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, probably one of the small things in there that's been really helpful for a lot of people is you can stay on your parents' insurance to your, I don't know, 26 or something now. So there is a windfall potentially if they can get a family rate and keep you in there. But you need insurance because it's still the #1 cause of bankruptcy in our country. Medical condition, no insurance. We do offer group insurance. I'm sad to say that the second tier, or whatever you want to call it, of Obamacare is in place. We all took a jump and got what they call a grandmother policy 2 years ago. Those of you that are on insurance with us know that you've got your letter that says they can no longer support that policy. It's going away. So we're out shopping. So what they've done is they've added costs to the group policies in order to make individual policies more affordable under the Obamacare Act. And so as groups, we've seen our insurance go up almost every year for the last handful of years. And this year it's particularly bad because we're coming off of that grandmother policy we had and having to go back into the open market rates. So, and I do not have the actual rates yet, but I'm told I will have them imminently. I got another email yesterday that I tried to dig through a little bit. We're even going to the trouble to shop individual rates for you guys because some of you in the room are better off, I think, this is a true statement, better off getting your own insurance through the exchange as an individual without us paying it than what we can offer you as a group policy. For many of you, it doesn't matter. It's just, here's the bad news. But for some of you, if you're young, healthy, because they're trying to make those policies more affordable, because the only way the system works is if young, healthy people have insurance. Because that was their theory. Well, they haven't had a big hit with young, healthy people picking it up. You know, it's mainly the people that are older and not as healthy that are paying for the insurance and getting insurance. So in order for the idea that they were proposing to work, it has to be that everybody kind of gets it. So more to come on that. Disability insurance, you know, what happens if you don't die? Great news is California has a reasonably decent disability program. What we're working on, and I guess I will take this, maybe I'll do it a little bit later. I think I'll get to it in a minute. But anyway, there's for most people, disability insurance is not a big need because there is a state program. If you have, there are some cases where some of you may want to chase this, and we've not been able to provide that in the past, but we are possibly going to be able to. That's the short version of the story in the near future, like starting January, February. Life insurance, there's 3 kinds. more and more common term insurance is what everybody gets. That's where you're just buying insurance. Whole life is the traditional product that came out somewhere around the beginning of the last century. And what that is that's an investment and insurance together. Pretty good insurance at a higher cost, but the investment not so great, but it's still an investment. Where this helped people, quite frankly, was people who are not capable of saving on their own, or savings. Then variable life came along and said, let's do a better job of investing. So it came along and gave some different versions and choices for how you invest and what, how much money you can put in there would be the other way to describe it. So there are some cases where variable life policies may work for people, but it's still the same thing. In my opinion, where these policies make the most sense is I don't have good spending habits. I can buy this variable life policy. I'm paying my $500 a month in this. 180 of it goes away for insurance that I could buy up here for $150. So I'm paying an extra $30 a month to have this policy. But the rest goes in investments and I can't touch it or lose the insurance. So it's a way of forcing savings. So for most of us, if we have the discipline, you want term insurance, you want to invest in a separate place. Does that make sense? For years, I used to tease people I didn't need insurance because I didn't have a family. And then what happened, I got into business and I have a family. It's not the traditional family, but I had a lot of people who depended on me, so I did get life insurance at that time. But for some people, it's just, hey, can you put me in the ground? I hear if they drop you off on the freeway, just make it look like an accident, the county will take care of it. But it's not cheap to put people, when somebody unfortunately does pass away, it's not inexpensive to take care of things. So for some people, that's the reason you need insurance, is that it wouldn't be a financial hardship on your family to take care of you after. For some of you in the room, you got kids. I want my kids to be able to get to school. Could they do it on one income? So there's reasons why life insurance can make some very real sense. I think most people are familiar with the different kinds. The one I want to hit is renter's insurance. Still happens once in a great while. Somebody lives in an apartment. There's everything they have is in that apartment. Not their fault. The guy two doors down falls asleep, sets a fire. Everybody gets out, nobody's hurt. But the apartment complex is a total loss. The insurance company does not pay for your stuff. The apartment company's insurance puts the apartments back. But if you want to cover your stuff, you have to have a renter's policy. And they used to be cheap. I don't know what they are these days.
It's like $100 a year. It's like $100 a year.
Yeah, so that's pretty affordable.
They require it now.
I think it's worth getting myself. I really think that if I had an apartment or a renting situation, I would have it. Any questions on insurance? I'm trying to stay on time. Investments. So you've done it right. You started saving some money. Now we want to put it away and do something with it. The T. Rowe Price is a company we currently have our IRA with. I like their site from a training and teaching standpoint. It's got some very basic stuff. Money 101. So if you Google Money 101, you find out without having to type everything in. I think they do a fabulous job of breaking it down into little digestible pieces. And if you haven't gone through them, or if you haven't gone through them in a while, it's kind of fun even at my level of ability. I go back and read these and I go, oh, what did they change that? Oh, what's that? Because it's a moving target. Some of the tried and true principles haven't changed in 30 years, and some of them, there's some new tools, like electronic traded funds is an example. That 5 years ago was a bleep on the radar screen, and now it's becoming a really common tool to use. 10 things, I'm going to go through them more individually, so I'm going to just black through that. Those of you who were here last year probably know the story, but I'll run it anyway. So you got two twins, a girl and a boy. The girl says, all right, I'm 20, I'm going to start saving, and she puts away $3,000 a year for 10 years. She, for whatever reason, she gets married, she has kids, some reason she stops putting money away and just lets that set. The brother, he's out, having a good time being a guy, surfing in Costa Rica and doing stuff. He doesn't put any money away until he gets to be 30, and I says, oh, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to start putting $3,000 away. And he does it for the rest of his normal working career, which has changed. I think 65 is the old 50, and I think most of us work to 80, I don't know. But which one's better off? Who has more money? She does. And if she'd stayed with it, she'd had a lot more money. So starting early is really important. And the reason is because of the next concept, compounding returns. So when you earn some money and it's in an account, and next time you get payment, you get money on your initial money and the interest, or and the little part you earned. And as you can see, it's not a linear relationship. It doesn't just go in a straight line over time. Over time, it actually gets faster and faster and faster. So that extra 10 years of growth is really important. For many of you in the room, you're still young enough, you get that going, and you'll be surprised at how much you'll have when you reach your retirement years. And it's currently one of the biggest crises we have, because there's the baby boomers, my generation, and I don't know the stats. I think it's about 60% didn't plan, and now they're in their 50s, 60s, early 70s, and they're going, I want to get ready for retirement. Well, this is the best you can do. You can't get these logarithmic curves without having those years. So start early. Pay yourself first. For most of us, that means take it away from my paycheck before I see it. It's so much easier to have stuff taken out of your payroll if you can. If not, the old school way when I was younger, pre-IRAs, was you put part in your savings and part in your checking. I know some of you do that. I think it's a really great tool. Especially if they're not linked, so you can go, it goes here, I don't see it. This is over here, this is what I live on and spend. You have to do this yourself, but basically there's a retirement calculator. I believe this has been updated to include current rates of return. When I was younger, everybody said they had this 5% rule. So you take your income, divide it by 0.05, and it comes up with what the number is you need to retire. Because you can withdraw theoretically 5% of the principal at a time, and over time it'll maintain and you'll be okay. You won't run out of money. Well, because of where interest rates are at, because of what has happened in the world economically, that rule is pretty much out the window. It's probably closer to 3% right now. What does that mean? It's a bigger number. You got to have a lot more put away than you used to live at the same level that you do while you're working. And it's not really a joke, it's real. Everybody keeps talking about, Social Security is going to go broke. But food stamps, I haven't heard about that going broke yet, or any of the other programs. So, dollar cost average. Some of you out there have really good luck and probably could go down and buy the lottery ticket to be winning. And then there's the rest of us who couldn't if we tried. We would just keep feeding the thing. And that's what it's a little bit like to guess the market swings, especially now. Again, back in time, market swings with some variability were in general slow. Since the Great Recession of 2007, 8, 9, we have seen volatility as the standard in the marketplace. What's volatility mean? It looks a lot like a dog in course fibrillation. The market's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. It thinks about it for a little bit, then it goes back up, then it goes back down. So to guess these swings is very difficult. What we know is that if you put money in regularly, whatever the time period is, if it's monthly, weekly, that maybe you hit it here on one month, and maybe you hit it over here on the next month, and up here. At the end of the day, you're going to be more like this red line in the middle. You're going to follow the trend of the market. And that's important because you're taking the risk out of guessing, is the market up or down. Does that make sense? So that's what I call dollar cost averaging. It's a very important concept. Because you'll see people saying, well, I'm waiting on the market to be in the right place to invest, rather than just going just regular clockwork. Somebody asked me if the market's up or down. Sometimes I know, sometimes I don't. It doesn't matter. I'm not planning on pulling anything out. I just keep feeding it every month. Okay, there's 4 tools that you can use to invest that have tax benefits. Traditional IRA, that's one that you have as an individual. The money goes in, you get a tax deduction on your tax return. Simple IRA, that's an employer-sponsored one. I think I could probably go through these in more depth in a minute. These 3 are pre-tax, i.e. you get a tax benefit going in. The Roth one, you pay the tax going in, you don't pay tax when you take money out. That's the difference in those 2 groups. The Roth one's a pretty cool tool for those of you who plan to be super successful and want to pass the wealth down to the next generation. At this time, and you have to qualify that, if you like, financial pornography, there's all kinds. You can get them every month, they come on your doorstep. I think Schwab, if you get a little basic account, they send you free magazines, kind of nice. This guy, I should probably pass that around. He's got a few books out on IRAs, and he does as good a job as anybody at explaining how you can take a regular IRA and make it an actual multi-generational wealth tool. And assuming that you're successful and you do pretty well, and you don't really need your retirement money because you did a good job, but you put a bunch of it in a Roth, you can pass that off as far down as a grandkid or further. But they don't pay taxes on it. So it's a way to pass wealth from one generation to another without taxation. A common one, like my local broker, what he does is he told his son when he was 18, I'm starting a Roth IRA for you, but it's not for you, it's for your kids someday. So I expect you to put money into it. I have one myself, it's going to be yours. So he's set this up as a family habit, if you will, that you need to be responsible and do this for me because that's going to affect your kids' well-being. So Simple IRA, we're one of 15% of the hospitals that offer retirement. And it seems weird to say, but it's real. It's a employer-sponsored plan. It's pre-tax, so it comes out before you get it. Currently, you can put in 12.5 unless you're 50, and then you can put in another 3. All of these, if you take money out before you're 59 and a half, you have to pay a penalty. A traditional IRA, you can't put as much in, so the employer-sponsored plans tend to be better. But otherwise, it works like the other one. 401k, and there's a very high likelihood we're moving from a simple IRA to 401k at the first of the year. I don't have the exact timing, I don't have all the details. But and some of you, we've been talking about it. I was in VMG 21, I'm now in VMG 2. I'm not completely in, but that's what we're doing. And what that group does is we're a group, and we have centralized accounting, bookkeeping, employee stuff, benefits, all that. So we have to be consistent among all of our hospitals. So it's, and we're still figuring, I said in a meeting last night about it. So, but that's where we're leaning. We're leaning toward having, it'll be kind of a full package. So you guys will have like a menu of things, almost like a big company would have, where you could pick these things I want, this is better for me. Because a lot of larger companies, when you go in and get your employment stuff, you get to pick all those things that you want. I want this part, I want this part. So if it goes as I understand it's supposed to, we will have those tools for you somewhere around the first of the year. Roth IRA, again, this one's biggest benefit to me is if you plan to be successful or you're worried about taxes later, pay the tax now and then enjoy the tax-free income later. Or again, the ability to pass it down through generations. Any questions on IRA, 401ks?
If we switch to the 401k at the beginning of the year, what happens to our existing?
George, so it's whatever you want to do with it. It could sit there and continue to grow. You could put it into a different one if you want to. It's still legally your money. You don't, ironically, you may not have known that. Any point you could have said, you know, I don't want it in this simple IRA here. I want to put it in my own IRA over here.
But you can't continue to contribute as is, right?
Correct. You can't put any more money in a simple. If you convert it to an individual IRA, you're allowed to do that. It's called a rollover IRA, for those who, the buzzword. It just means I'm rolling my investment money to another investment group, or it could be even the same company. You could take T. Rowe Price from my simple into a traditional IRA, for example. Now, if you go into a Roth from any of the other tools, you have to pay the taxes. So that if you have cash and want to do that to get the tax benefit down the line, you can, but you have to write the check when you do that. Otherwise, it's just a transfer in an account. You never see it, you never touch it.
Can we transfer it to our new one?
You could probably transfer it to 401k. I can't tell you that for sure, I don't know, but I suspect you can do what you want with it. I personally wouldn't think there's a benefit to moving it to a 401k. I personally would, if it were mine, I'd probably do a rollover IRA into a traditional. And the reason that that would give me the opportunity to put money in if things changed at some point. Because as long as it's a simple, you can't put any other money in it. that's there. And it won't change what it does as far as growth, won't change it what it does as far as expenses. Does that make sense? I will, since we're talking about it, I will mention that when you do a rollover, if you're ever having to do this for yourself, or if somebody passes away and you're inheriting it, do not take the money to your account and then put it back in. You can never touch the money. It all has to be in the cloud. Because if you touch the money, you have to pay the taxes as if you cashed it out. Even though it goes right back in a different IRA, it's a very stiff loophole on the law. So the federal tax law says in order for this to stay as your retirement investment pre-tax, it has to move without ever touching an account that's external. So, and people that do this usually will coach you, but again, that book I'm passing around, he has 2 meaty books. They're pretty thick, and he talks about disasters, IRA disasters. And it's where people have made those mistakes, where they just cashed them out, and then to find out that, oh yeah, I've got to write a really big check for taxes that they weren't planning on. So, but yeah.
When you redo this, will you match it or?
In the 401k, again, unfortunately, this isn't my decision, this is a group decision. So at this time, there wouldn't be a matching in the 401k.
Oh,
It'll be an employee, I forget what they call it. It's an employer-sponsored plan, but there's a phrase for it when employees put their money in, and I might skip it in my brain right now. But anyway, it's you can put in pre-tax dollars, but the 3% match that I've done for years on my simple wouldn't be there on a 401. I don't know what the future brings. I would tell you that there's more of us that think we should put one there. The argument for it is that we're going to have some other things you get. There's a cost for that. So we're spending the money. It's not we're not trying to save any money on the thing. It's that we're trying to give you the money in a way that it gives you more choices than just one. Does that make sense? And again, I wish I knew more because I don't have all the stuff laid out yet. I've been begging for it, but I don't have it. Broadly diversified. So diversification, the key on that is, how many of you have heard of Enron? Or is that starting to get too long ago? You know, where
somebody took.
Well, basically you had a company that on paper was thriving and doing phenomenally well, and so everybody went, oh, here, take all my money and invest it for me because you're going to make me a lot of money. And then it went bust. So overnight you had people that were broke. And it's because they put all their stuff in one place. They didn't diversify, which is a really big, important rule. So the number is 50 companies. If you have 50 companies or more, you decrease your risk substantially. So what most of us use, we use mutual funds. Now the other tool that's on the market that's coming out more common is called electronic trade funds. I'll hit those in a minute. But for most of us today, mutual funds are the way we invest in the marketplace. Because we're wealthy enough to go out and spend, go buy 50 different companies' stocks at a reasonable number. But I can give them my $500 and they can put it with everybody else's $500 and they can go buy all these companies. So that's the way that mutual funds work. So for most of us, it's built into the system as long as we use a diversifying system. That's why I listed these. There's if you use broad-based indexes, there's a few. I'll go through it. Okay, so when you look at the marketplace out there, there's what they call sectors. There's real estate, there's commodities like beef, and corn, and then there's oil and gas, there's gold, precious metals. There's these different parts of the market. There's, even within it, there's a tech part, there's healthcare. So you can break the market down into little small spots. Or you can say, I want the 500 most consistent and best performing companies in the country under the S&P 500. So that's the S&P 500 fund. They take the top 500, and if IBM starts sucking and they fall out, they're replaced with, if Apple becomes the winner, then Apple goes in and out, and IBM comes out. So to manage that is fairly inexpensive. We're going to get to why that's beneficial in a minute. So for a lot of us, we use broad-based index funds because they're financially diversified. They're targeting the market growth, which is historical consensus been good. and they're low cost. So I'm not spending much to have that diversification. I'm going to go on because this is where it gets to next. So if you're a money manager today, it's a tougher market, number one. Number two is I have to make a living by selling you things that cost you money to pay me. They're usually in the form of load funds. So I'm going to sell you that same mutual fund you and I were talking about. It's going to be a brand you never heard of. It was the Dr. Horner wants to retire fund that's it's the S&P 500. It's really cool. I only take 5% of your money going in. So if you give me $100, you only get $95 your first year. And so you may not earn much that first year. Now, if I also charge you 1.5 points, which is kind of standard for most managed funds, and you make 5 in the fund for the year, how much do you get to keep? 3.5. But if you did it in a different fund that wasn't a managed fund, and it was an index fund, and it was 0.1, how much do you get to keep? 4.99, most of it. So what your costs are to get into investments and out of investments allow you to have a better opportunity to actually keep the money that you earn. Really important. So we tend to go for no load funds, and we tend to go for low costs. And it's everybody has to give you that information. Remember, in the electronic world, it's easier to get than it used to. You know, back in the day, you called up the company on the telephone on your rotary dial. They mailed you a prospectus. You got it a week and a half later. You had to thumb through all the legal BS to find the costs. Today, you can type in, Fidelity. What are your costs? And they'll have their 20 different funds, what their average return has been, all this information, including costs. So we just started talking about this, but basically they did a neat study, and this is probably not recent, probably 8 or 10 years ago, and they took some of the best money managers on the planet, and they said, all right, what are you doing? How are you measuring up against an index? An index is, again, what's the market if nobody manages it, top 500 companies? Well, 50% of the time they guessed better. And 50% of the time they didn't guess better. But they cost more. So again, if your guy can outperform the market consistently, it might be worth paying you. But the stats aren't in his favor. Most of these guys, remember, most funds, you'll see them, they're the star fund for 3 to 5 years, and then they're the suck fund for 3 to 5 years. It just seems to be they work that way. So for most people, this total market index fund is a pretty cool fund because it's even more broad-based. It's a very large fund. Everybody has one. Now Vanguard, Fidelity, I have investments in all of these 3. So if I have a conflict of interest, it's that. But what I go for whenever I coach somebody is I say, who's got the same product at the least price? And if I'm not mistaken, it's Vanguard, because I just helped my aunt do some. But I think that's who it was. But anyway, somebody had 0.5 point or less for their first cost level, because you'll pay a certain cost up until a certain amount of money. I think it's $10,000, and then I think it drops to a different cost. So I think it's 0.05 down to 0.01, which is pretty low cost. Make sense? Conceptually. I don't know how many days a week I get some rich uncle that I never heard of that wants to get $20 million out of Africa into the States. All I got to do is put in my bank information. They're going to give me a lot of money. Lots of scams out there. Your neighbor next door may have a tip. Just do your own homework. Make sure you know what you're investing in so that you make good choices. Get some financial pornography. It may not be as much fun as Good Housekeeping or Cosmo, but it's probably something that over time will actually make more sense and sink in, and you'll be more financially successful than others. And incidentally, a word that came up in another venue the other day that I really thought applied to this is persistence. I find it really easy to be discouraged with things like budgeting, saving, investing. Any of those words are almost like the Antichrist for the first 8 or 10 years, because you just don't really see that much change. Yeah, I've got a little bit of money in my savings now, or I've got a little bit in my investments now, but it still doesn't seem like a number that matters. But somewhere between, year 5 and year 15, all of a sudden you look at it and you go, holy crap, how did that happen? Because that number starts to do that logarithmic turn you talked about. So what I find is that it's really easy to get frustrated in those early years and throw in the towel and lose that time. Where if you just stay with it, persistence, you'll move out in front.
Can you guys please pass the sympathy cards around? I see that they've stopped.
Risk return trade-off, I don't know that it's a huge point other than to say that, you know, again, where I find most of this is, you know, my buddy told me about this penny stock somewhere that it's going to be the next latest greatest, and it might be. But that's, if something is high return, it typically carries high risk. If something's low return, it's typically low risk. So let's talk about bank accounts. So if I put my money in a CD, what am I going to earn today? Do I know? I got 20K and I put it in a bank, and I'm putting it in a CD because I know that is perfectly safe. Federal government says up to $250,000, you won't take a dime from me.
What's a CD?
Certificate of deposit.
I don't know, 0.01, I don't know.
Yeah, that would be your money market account right now, probably. 0.1. Yeah, it's really interesting they've gone to decimal points for interest in money market accounts. But CDs right now are really good when you're going to get about 1.1. So let's use a point because it's easy. So 1%. And let's put $100 in there. So at the end of the year, what do I get? I get $1. Okay. Does anybody know what the CPI stands for? Consumer Price Index. Sound more familiar? Anybody know what that is? It's a measure of inflation. It's published by the government every month. There's a handful of them, but the standard CPI, Standard Consumer Price Index, it says if I have $1 today and we measure it at a different time, let's say in January that dollar is $1, and in December that dollar is worth 98 cents. So what they'll report is they'll report a 2% inflation rate, or a CPI of 2%. So, and 2% is about where it's at right now, 2 point something for the year. We've had very low inflation, very low CPI for the last 8 to 10 years because of the recession. So if I have a CPI of 2, i.e. my dollar that I started with in January, December it's worth 98 cents, and I put that dollar in my money market and it generated a 1 cent return, how well off am I at the end of the year? I lost a penny, right? So the point is when you get super low risk and super low return, just be aware that I'm barely keeping up with inflation or slightly behind inflation. I'm preserving less than if it was in a mattress, or it's doing better than if it was in a mattress, but it's not really making substantial money. So when people do keep money in CDs, which I do as well, it's usually for money that I need access to quickly. I need some money for paying payroll next month, or I need to be able to do different things. Then I need to have that money available. But otherwise, you can get your risk so low that there's no return, there's no benefit.
So are you better off getting high risk?
For most of us, it's called a mix. I get some medium risk. I don't have any real high risk stuff, but I have some definite moderates. That's one of the ways they'll talk about it is, so what's your comfort level? Can you be okay if you lose some of that money? And in my opinion, if you don't risk some, you don't get any growth. So the stock market is the only thing that we have as a tool to the general public that has outpaced inflation historically in any 10-year period of time. And the key phrase there is any 10-year period of time. So the closer we get to retirement, the more that CD might look pretty nice, because I can set it off some and have a little safer position. Historically, 10, 15 years ago and before, that CD was paying 3 to 5%. All right, no big deal. And inflation was floating around there, so you stayed at or slightly above inflation, so that was cool. But that's not been the case for a handful of years. So it's if you read those sites that we talked about, one of the things when they go into diversification, they're going to show you different plans to find what you should put your money in that's comfortable for your risk, that would give you a reasonable return. And it's kind of beyond the scope as an entry level to get into bond markets in certain parts of the market. I would just tell everybody in the room that bond markets are a little scary right now, probably not going anywhere in the next 10 years. So in a traditional model, you would have a certain percentage of your investment in bonds. And the professionals I know personally don't really believe that right now. They just don't think there's much hope in the near future for that segment of the market. So again, so some of the traditional models for investing are being challenged a little bit right now because the marketplace is different than it's ever been. Statistically, buy and holds do better than day traders. So when you get in and out of positions, you usually have a cost. But if you just stick it out, persistence again, in general, you do better. Makes sense? 3 to 8% is, so just jumping right to the stock market, there's the number. For the last 10 years, the stock market generated a 7.85% return. CPI was 2, so how much of that did you get to keep? Even if you ran it off to 8. 8 minus 2 is what? 6. 6% return is pretty decent. Most people would be happy with that today. It definitely will allow you to retire at some point, which is what we're after. There are a lot of other tools. I'm not going to go through all of them other than to mention ETFs. Electronic traded funds are one of the new kids on the block. They've been growing in popularity. They're more available than they were. They're traded like a stock, but they operate like a mutual fund. So there are some inherent benefits of that. They tend to be more in sectors. So, for example, I think Peru's really doing great. I really like that economy. I think that if you look at the inside, I think they're undervalued. I think they're going to grow 30 to 40% in the next 10 years. It's a high-risk investment potentially. But I can buy an ETF today that's on Peru. So I'm investing in companies in Peru. Like, to go to Peru, get into their stock market and invest directly would be very difficult. But through these tools, it's easy to do. And since the economy's become more of a global economy, you're seeing people use those tools in ways they haven't before. Even money, you can buy funds that are different people's currencies. They're using this in a lot of ways. But for most of us, just the point is, be aware it's out there. If you get to the point where you're starting to really look at diversification, or you're looking at where you want to be in the marketplace, that's a tool that will give you more choice than a traditional mutual fund at potentially lower costs. So. Cool. Any questions on investing? Right. I've just wrote the responsible slide up. I hope nobody in the room plans on dying. And qualifiers soon. There's a country song I love because it says, you know, everybody wants to get to heaven, but nobody wants to go today. Everybody needs a will. And even if you write down, you know, give all my stuff to my sister, you sign and give it to your parents, I think it's cool. But the more you have, unless you wanted to just go wherever, take the time. It isn't hard to write down a simple plan. If you've got kids or if you start to develop net worth, you might want to think about a trust. Somebody asked yesterday what they cost. My first trust was around $2,500, $3,000. It wasn't a complex trust. But I know that I just set up one with my aunt and uncle that was like $1,500. So they're not inexpensive. I bet you can get them done cheaper, I don't know. Both of those had some tricks to them. But the idea of a trust is two benefits. One is it avoids probate. So whenever somebody passes away, it doesn't have to spend a bunch of time dealing with the estate. It goes directly to whatever you say it's supposed to do. Secondly, you can dictate who takes care of your kids. So you don't have to worry about the state coming in and saying, hey, you know, see, there's a pretty good opportunity here. We're going to put you in a state home, take your money. You know, I don't, again, it's just, you hear all these horror stories. So if you have somebody you would want to take care of your kids in your absence, write it out. And then have a plan B, because in our case, both our plan A and plan B didn't make it. So we had to start over. We had to reach out for somebody new to take care of their kids if something happens to us. Moving on down, advanced healthcare directive is what happens to me if I'm in an accident and I'm not able to make my own decisions? Who would I want to make those decisions for me? Again, This is very inexpensive. I think most hospitals have a standard form. You can just fill it all out, get it notarized, give a copy to the people you want to be responsible for you. If you have a spouse, it's automatically a spouse unless you designate otherwise, I believe. But again, maybe your spouse, you wouldn't necessarily want to be that person. Maybe you want your aunt or your mom or somebody else to be the person making those decisions. Power of attorney is a similar sort of thing. It's just who would manage your affairs if you're incapacitated for some reason. And they can be really well spelled out. It just says, if I can't take care of stuff, take care of it while I can, and then when I can, it comes back to me. But if you handle these things in advance, the benefit is it's not a crisis. It's not an additional crisis. The hardship of dealing with either the loss or an injury or whatever somebody's going through, that's a big deal. And they add in the financial convolution or the headaches with it. It can be very exhausting. And a little bit of effort in advance, and it doesn't have to happen. It really straightforward. References, I believe, are in your handout. And that's the road into my farm in the spring. It's not what it looks like right now. All those leaves are the yellow gold are on the ground.
You have to rake them all up?
No, I just run over the lawnmower a couple times to mulch it. And then they go.
That's your house?
That's the road to my house.
What? Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
He lives under that tree right there.
See that little tent?
It's right over here.
Do you live on the same property as your hay fields, or is that different?
That's different. This is my farm. So I have a farm I bought 8 years ago or 9 years ago, 8 years ago. And this is the road into it. The end of the road dies into my property. So I always teach people is, if you go to BFE, just make a right and then go to the end of the road, and that's where we're at. But so it's really remote, and that's where I do hay and cattle and other stuff. I bought a house in a town called Franklin, which is 1 hour away. Franklin is a more progressive city than Centerville. Centerville is Sixville. Your family tree may not fork very far if you live here. Its average income in the county is about $7,000. Average education level, I don't know, maybe 60% finish high school. It's so we chose not to raise the kids here because they'd be environmentally retarded. There's nice people, I mean, wonderful, wonderful, caring people, but it wouldn't be the other guy. Do what?
No, they're not going to marry those people.
No. Don't want to take that
No
chance.
chance.
Dr. Horner wants to spread his G pool, not tighten it.
So the town we live in is not hugely different than being here. It's just a different environment because it's Tennessee and it's green. And then the people are a little different there. You have to get used to saying yes ma'am and no ma'am. And it's not because you're being a smart ass, it's actually just a polite environment.
I said yes to her the other day, and the guy was like, did a double take.
I have to try to be very mindful because, if I say yes ma'am to somebody here, I could get slapped. So you have to just be very mindful that I'm not in the South right now. That's not appropriate. But the flip side is if I'm there and I don't say that, I'm being rude. So it's kind of like having my different Spanish dialects. I have to make sure that when I'm in South America, I use that one, and when I'm in Mexico, I try to use my Mexican Spanish. But no, it's but we do have these. We have lots of trees and streams and stuff, and rain, sleet, cold, and frost in the morning.
It's cold today.
Quite. Yeah, when I came in, it was colder here than it was in Franklin, and I brought rain with me. It was just like being at home. It rained the day I left. So, any questions at all? Yesterday I had lots of questions. You got 7 minutes worth of questions.
What's the sign up to the IRA?
The sign up for IRA is usually every December. This one may be an exception because of what I'm doing with the group. Because again, as we go to standardize benefits through our group, that will be a 401k. So I would say if you're signing up today, hold out. Ask me, if you don't mind asking me next week again, there potentially could be a little windfall program in there. I'll have to find out if I can do that or not. And I should know by next week because I talked to all the Grand Poobahs last night again. Trying to get it all. We're trying to get everybody to agree. It's always fun. But open enrollments traditionally in our company has been December, is that right?
Yeah.
So I would say likely that's what we'll have to fall back to. We moved to November 2 years ago to get this other policy. And because of that, we're in oddball work in November, December. What do we do this year? And most everybody is December 31st to January 1. So your open enrollment is December. January 1 is when new things take effect. So, I have been very diligently trying to get all that put together for you guys. Because I want you to have all the information, make your choices. But it is exciting, if I'm honest. I think it's going to be good stuff. Any other questions? Cool. Well, thanks.
Thank you. Something else that we were supposed to talk about.
I hadn't been used to that.
Tyler?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes at 7 in the morning, everybody's like,
I know you guys have noticed, but the sign-up sheet for the holidays is out. We have 2 shifts that still need 2 technicians. We need to have technicians to come in and do the technical stuff because not everybody knows how to, take care of hospitalized patients and do boarding on meds. So please, if you can, look at it and move if you can. So the 2 shifts are Christmas morning and Christmas evening. All the other shifts have technicians.
I did think of another little tidbit of information that ties into what we're talking about. As an interesting gee whiz, there's a thing called a financial literacy. And one of my goals is to make sure everybody in this room is financially literate. It does a couple things. It makes you less of a target for somebody to take financial advantage of than other people. The other benefit is you tend to end up being more financially successful, i.e. financially independent, able to be independent from having to work someday. So for a handful of years they've done this test, and traditionally it's been high school or early college graduates, and they give them this financial literacy test. And not a huge surprise, but the pass rate's around 65, 70%. That they understand things like compounding interest and some of the things we talked about today. And then somebody got smart and they said, well, you know, let's give this test to 50 and 60-year-olds, people that are getting close to retirement. And they ask them things like the effect of inflation, that CPI thing we talked about, on their investments. They ask them about compounding interest. But relatively simple financial concepts. And especially for people in that age group, you'd think, oh gosh, that'll be easy. What percentage do you think passed? Huh? It was a little higher than 30, but yeah, it was around 50, 60%. I think it was almost a similar number to the high school kids. So the point of that is that, you know, we all have parents. And just because they're a parent didn't mean that they were financially literate. And some of you have parents that are very financially literate. I was having a conversation with somebody about this subject, and they pointed out that, yeah, my parents really nailed this. However, they never talked to me about it. They never sat down and told me about how you manage your money and what things they're doing, so that wasn't shared. So the goal why I want to share that information with you is I want you guys to be financially literate. I want you to have that information so that you're in the past and can pass the test. Not only is that good from a knowledge standpoint, but it will make you successful financially. So, which is an interesting piece of data because your parents may try to guide you, and depending on your parents' success rate, don't be surprised if they don't necessarily understand. Or they may understand and not share. Dang it, that doesn't help.
Thank you.
Yay! You were so close.
I don't know why. I don't hear about it. This must be my age. I'm getting up.
So, you make the bread or Danny make the bread?
I make bread.
Danny just
I
came
just
over to
passed it
the house
out.
and helped.
Yes. I was there in the spirit. Cheering her on as she mashed the bananas or whatever you do. But I do love it, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Actually,
Very
I've had
good.
10 frozen bananas, so I've got 2 more loaves at home.
Oh. I don't know what the top is. Do I have it? No, I have that top.
It's kind of muffins, Sash.
Well,
Yeah.
This is Sweeney said that a while back she gave us her punch card for the baby test, and we didn't give it back to her. And she has asked multiple times for us to look in her records to see how close she was getting her look free back. But nobody ever wanted to do it.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you.
This is the first I've heard of it.
First
But I wrote a note, and I didn't know what to tell her, because I didn't know who would do that. Without, I mean, the whole point of
You're
the
supposed
punch
to have
card
a
is
card.
that you're supposed to bring it back. But she says she bought it and took it and never gave it back to her.
Why would you do that?
It's not in here, so I don't know. Because every now and then I see like, Mr. Carlson or the wine card, I have to in here and I try to figure it out. That's their responsibility. But I don't see it.
He's faster than that. Here today.
I wasn't sure what to tell her, so I said I'll run it by her.
How does this work?
Right?
Brandon, you're on a Wednesday.
She's lost.
She doesn't know what to
Very
do.
lost. The good thing is, we don't change it much. Just start a little bit later.
No, Wednesday's really different. Whole different protocol.
Definitely out of place.
Evening, to get out 2 hours early. That's the difference.
Brandy gets to leave early too.
No. She does not.
What? That's the only reason I signed up.
They lied to you.
They lied. Lies they told. Huh?
What kind of a different name, Somerset?
Legati.
Oh, the start is?
Yeah.
So, yeah, went to go home last night, the owner was here, luckily we noticed some blood on the stockinette, opened up and filled up with blood. So we had to put a chest wrap on.
Hold on, don't worry. So when you're thinking like
So we had owner to go home and
might
see
see
the
you walk.
evaluation.
We won't know we're going to, 401K.
And so the
Very nice.
simple one is.
You'll still be there.
Oh,
It's your money.
That explains it
But
then,
we
right?
aren't,
Yes.
we won't be able to continue to fund it.
okay, so. If like.
I think I just paid your guys' paychecks for this month.
Bill.
People say
I know. I was just like,
But I don't know if you want to. I would just
have a good day.
let them stay,
Stay, and then.
and then start.
That's all I said. Yeah, it's still a little bit annoying.
Stay
Yeah.
with the simple IRA,
I
and
was
then,
like-
and also,
You
we
keep
might-
it.
He's getting
It's
taken
your
care
money.
of.
So you don't lose that money, it's all yours.
okay,
But I don't see the benefit in putting it in the 401K at this time.
right, okay,
If that changes, I'll let you know.
oh, okay.
I don't have all the data yet, so I just know that,
So we're still gonna have the simple IRA, I'm trying to understand, but, and you still will be matching that or no?
I can't
Won't be
change
able-
the fund to simple IRA. So,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
so the end of this
the
year won't
complexity
be.
comes in that it gets complex beyond what I can really explain at this moment. But our version is that with the group that we are now in, we've agreed to use all of the same benefits, all the same insurance, centralized accounting, payroll, so that we can get some benefits from that. What the biggest benefit is that for the same cost, we can get you guys more stuff.
Right, with the 401.
401K, the big benefit of 401K is you can put more in.
Right.
Why when you touch this cat, does it go to the back?
Otherwise, I don't know that there's a lot of
I
benefits
don't know,
to it.
it's okay.
We could not do a 401K that has
You
just
notice when you go
us.
do anything, it like
Cost
flips out like
it's
this,
very expensive.
like you're gonna.
But if it's a big group with a bunch of us doing this at the same time, we would get cost down the change. So that's why that.
So, will you know like the end of December?
I will
or
hope to know by next week.
Next week?
I was
Oh.
hoping to know this week. I was
Okay.
hoping to come and present all that stuff, but it hasn't happened.
All right.
I said on a meeting last night, and last night they said it could be as late as the 15th. But they promised that we will have it in our hands by the 15th. Because what we did is we all agreed, and then we gave it to, like any group, we have a president, and we have people that, within our group, that have big roles. And so they have to follow through on the paperwork side, and then we don't have the information.
Okay, so that's 401, how much would the individual be putting in? If
It's up to you.
It's up to you,
want me to just start
okay.
up there?
It's like.
I believe you can put up to 18,000. So it's, the limit's high, so it's got a big benefit.
Yeah, let me see if there's more ID.
But for most of us, that's a lot of money, so
Yeah.
most of us don't put 18,000.
Right, I understand, okay.
Yeah,
You what?
But it's there if you wanted to. So
Okay.
whereas a traditional IRA, you're limited.
Right.
So
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you and I are
It's not-
closer to the retirement age,
Yeah,
we want
last
to maximize those reserves investments.
Got a lot of UV.
Oh,
Because that gives us a better chance of retiring.
Here.
all right.
Makes sense? Because it's all pre-tax, so you don't pay any taxes.
Right, okay.
That's the benefit of it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you want this? It's on the code. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Is that all we, do we have all the, one?
Did I grab one?
Is that all the check
Yeah.
Is that clean?
Yeah.
Are you gonna undo it, Brooke?
Well, you decided
I'm scared. Because if I undo it, I want it to be perfect. If I undo it and
Only
it's
the
not
best.
perfect.
only the best.
Oh, can you pee?
Yeah. Here,
Really?
switch sides with you.
You told me all about it.
Oh, it's only slid all the way back. Didn't do that at all.
Tucker.
Big black cat there.
I think it's magic. Black magic.
Oh, yeah, I just go. Brushing then.
Yeah.
Can we do that? Cool. I'll call you out too. Okay.
You got a what?
We will, do that and then pull
Was
this
that
up.
Emily cat?
The thing is that
Look at a friend.
Can you open that door and see, give me Emily's medication?
What if we had like over the pad? Doesn't matter anyway.
You are so nice. Nice lady.
No, I feel much better with how that looks. All that orange. Nice bandage. Didn't even stick.
No, but he kind of looks kind of cool, doesn't he? A nice look for you, little dog. You gonna get on the
So I called that lady.
Oh, yeah.
She
She sent 2 videos and then she said he's worse
dying.
than when he came in.
Yeah, and then I said go ahead and give him Saturdays. She took him to the AC.
I know, he's here now, but
Yeah, I
the
told
dog
her
is
to.
doing amazing.
I tried to
This is when her
describe her the difference of how they are when they're here versus at home. Yeah, at home they're just happy, comfortable, and I'm gonna be all over the
Well, you
place.
guys were, I think Sarah was saying, you probably remember too, that it's so inflamed in there.
Huh?
It's so inflamed, it just had
Well, it's gonna be more inflamed if it all keeps, you know.
I just bet they took it home, took the collar off, gave the dog free rein of everything.
That is what she did.
Yeah.
And I tried to tell her. And she's like, oh no. But you could see in the video, he's like,
the dog, yeah.
and it's like running all over the place.
Hey, Dr. Lee, real quick for this one. Do you
Cute.
want me to start the Zediquin today, or?
No, we have permission for.
It's a zinging like perfect community.
Really? Yeah. Beach reduction this morning and tonight.
You want more?
Brooke, you went for food.
I know. Didn't want her to.
Yes, yes. Betrayal injection and
Okay.
when Vince called them yesterday, we have the permission for 2 days. So it's supposed to get one tonight.
Trying to get you the trash.
And then if you can, oh, it's still on? It was at like 1:30.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bossy boots. Bossy boots? Mm-hmm. Why is it bossy? Because she's mad. She wants me to put her back where I got her from. Who wants to be the boss? Sure can.
You want my cookies?
I did, they were delicious.
Hey, Danny.
Yep.
Can I get an estimate, please?
Yeah. Tell me.
Kissy.
Where is it?
kissy.
No. It's the process.
As soon as you touch this cat, she pees.
This is P.
I just flushed it.
So she has some financial concerns, but I couldn't feel if but it's not locked.
Dr. Porter?
Yeah.
Leon Berger's mom is online hunt for you.
Okay.
All this stuff.
That's the surgery we're gonna say, right?
Yeah.
Your arthroscopy.
But,
And toe touching, where we at today?
financially afford it, you can put it
Pretty
on there.
well,
yes.
he just has a bandage on, so he's walking out, going to the bathroom with it.
Okay.
You know, pretty normal.
It should be the. You're not a crybaby.
But it wasn't PC yesterday. Was it PC?
Oh, sorry, Chris, I meant the boarding.
PC.
So that's always fun.
Maybe it's do you have the zipper?
Okay.
No.
The surgery went well. Just
Yeah.
the interesting thing
Maybe
is
it's
that
what?
that one
Feline.
harm for old computers
Not HIV,
as
but
well as
feline
awards.
AIDS.
But the meniscus itself weren't in too bad shape, which is very.
Oh, Family Guy. So obnoxious.
Definitely some arthritic changes, not a big surprise. Retention of going in. But, you know, I think in the scheme of things, there's probably an 85–90% chance we'll recover uneventually. I think that the big key is slow, steady. You're used to the limb for a while. With this repair, we probably talked about it before. The key is if you keep doing
It's very sad. Have to look at it's a tragedy.
The good thing, the science side lids, they actually
One
fit
of
on
the things
that.
we know, and
Uh-huh.
this stuff is especially fun, but we can talk about it, prosecute some numbers, because in the funeral, when you get these surgeries, they say, you're not gonna be right for your and the dog will be, we tried really hard to make that not true. We thought that they were well put them in that. And we know that the secondary phase of healing at most optimal is 6 months. And so somewhere between 6 months and a year is when we expect full recovery to the point where they're as strong or better than others. And in that interim, it really is in my hands, the first couple months is the trickiest. Is just keeping them from doing anything silly. Because one of the downsides of this technique is they feel too good in my opinion. And they will abuse their way of doing it. It's like, but so I think the
You gonna put your ice side? Brandy, you wanna put your ice side back on? Thanks.
No. You know they came to the Davis last night?
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they took their sweet.
Yeah, they did, it was important.
Oh. What, did they come at the other day or something?
Yeah, they came like 10 minutes before 7, and then as soon as they, or actually a little bit before then, 20 minutes, stayed the whole time, and then when we closed, they were still there, and then both of them decided they had both had to use the bathroom. So we were just like, Russia's parents. But they're so sweet, they're so nice. But, yeah, they just okay.
Can you make sure you give it Zuna tonight too, Brooke?
I already did.
Thank you.
35?
For the cloud mops?
Yeah.
Yes.
the very best thing that can
Can
be
you
done
take a minute and look at your 3?
is put these up to
Can I take a minute and look at my
Very
screen?
good.
for the first
Just
Just a minute, just look at it.
I like how you say that.
What are you talking about? After about.
Did it eat overnight, Fran?
Well.
Alright, with the EC, I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
They cleaned it.
I was gonna say thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, whoever gets the main link.
So, patients in the president, it's 2 3 weeks.
Therapy on my legs.
We work them really slow and small to walk. And in doing that, they still have strength training because of the
They got even better though.
So
I can't even walk right. Like my shin.
You guys are funny.
It feels good, Dr. Lee, to try it. It's a good.
I've been left out.
Come on, Danny. Come on, Danny.
I got works to do.
Those patients.
This is making work better.
More efficient.
Thanks,
All the
Katie.
stuff we know right now is
Good
that
session.
the
I'll
risk
see
of
you in
like
another
5%
Hour.
and a recovery.
I think I gotta do it in an hour.
Oh. Hi, you're so
Those
cute.
daily activities really helpful, but you're right, jumping, dog plowing the dog, air throwing off an hour. It's really up to you, and you know the personality. Going with no dog home, I would just say whatever works for you. I would say a week or two is a very common thing. Some people leave it 2 weeks. But the longer the better, and the environment's fairly controlled. And the staff knows how to walk and work them, do all that. I have people that take them home at night and bring them back for day as a concept as well. Just, so you're gonna be around at the house, so you have a scenario, you certainly would be able to do, you know, because it might be multiple short walks are better than one walk.
Oh, that's so good. Can you shake?
I have an available outpatient nurse for return for Jack, and available outpatient nurse for
I have a meeting scheduled in the morning. I would have to go home, and so I'm back to work.
I'm gonna guess that
That's smart. That's the deal. Thank you.